Motorhead Garage, the program that each week introduces you to and shows you how to install the latest in exciting and innovative products for your vehicle. Motorhead Garage is presented by NHOU Protective Coatings. Now here's your host, Dave Dobson.
Welcome to Motorhead Garage, presented by NHOU Protective Coatings. You know, the electric car is on the march, whether you like it or not. And a lot of folks are pointing at hot rodders and racers, Jan, and saying they're the ones that are the polluters and the big offenders in this. But you guys are trying to prove them wrong at Innovation Performance Technologies. How so?
We know they're trying to kill hot rodding, Dave, and we are going to try and come up with some crazy idea that says maybe the guys building a car in their garage are way greener than they say.
And we'll talk about that. And this is not the first time this has happened. Back in the 1980s, the government was trying to shut down the racing industry, basically. And Hot Rodding Magazine said, we have forgotten this. The idea about building a hot rod is to take something that's not worth a whole lot, you take what you can afford and you make it better.
Oh, you're right on. Yeah. So basically we had men coming home from the war that were young men that were pretty creative. They fought the Nazis, you know, and they would go find these older cars, put them together, put the most modern, current, high-power engine they could stick in it. Back then it was a flathead, and made a real cool car. Maybe we're here again.
And you guys know what you're talking about. Innovation Performance Technologies has been on the show before. We've seen some of their amazing creations, from resto mods to hot rods and things like that. And you've done that here with the shocker over here, and we'll get to the details on that. And this is addressing what's going on right now. They're still coming after race cars in the government.
Absolutely. First is they just want to go after the race car industry, right? And the idea is a stock car that you would take and you'd modify it for racing. The government doesn't really like that, and they're trying to put some lids on that. And I think there's a bunch of people from NASCAR who might have a different opinion about that.
I'm sure of that. So then enter the RPM Act.
Yeah.
And what is that all about?
So the RPM Act is basically an act that Congress is trying to push through as a law that says that you have the right to take your car and do whatever you want with it, including racing, including modifying it, change your tire, whatever you want to do, or build a car in your backyard.
Of course, the RPM Act is all about racing, and you're also addressing issues with racing and with road-going cars as well. What are you trying to prove here with the shocker?
Well, basically, racing industry has always created some pretty cool stuff that always transitions well into a car. You know, active suspension, active handling, and ABS brakes, all those things came from racing many, many years ago. Well, what we wanted to do is build a car that you could grab out of the junkyard and put this thing together and compare it to an electric car to see if we can compete in the green new world.
If you can do it on the racetrack, you can do it on the road as well.
Exactly, Dave. If you look at the car behind me, this car has lots of wins on it, and we wanted to take that idea and try to put it into a street car that the average person could build in their garage. Remember, we want to integrate, not fabricate.
And to be clear, you're not necessarily going to make a race car like this to this extreme, but you wanted to prove that you could make a car that you could recycle and put on the road. So what are some of the considerations that you want to take when you're building a car from, say, a junkyard vehicle?
We came up with a list of 10 things that we wanted to do. When we look at those 10 things, they are, first, pick a car that you like. And next, make sure that the car is a popular car, that parts are available. There's a lot of advancement in parts, and there's a lot of development that's already occurred in most cars. You just got to make sure you're picking one of those cars that have it.
And how can you find if the parts are available for your particular car?
It's called Google.
I got you. I've heard of that. I've got it in my pocket.
Then, you know, what we're looking for is safety. Safety is a really big factor here. And in safety, you know, look, you can have the greatest engine, transmission, whatever you're going to do. If the car is unsafe, it's not worth even being in.
No doubt about that. And then part of the safety is the suspension, everything underneath. A lot of folks think about that as performance, but really starting, stopping, and the handling of the vehicle is really all about safety.
Oh, absolutely. So basically, we had 40 years of racing experience on this. Why not take the exact same suspension and stick it in this car? And that's what we did. The big thing is brakes, and we'll talk about brakes later on.
Gotcha. And then the drivetrain?
The drivetrain is the stock drivetrain from a modern 2019 Mustang. It's fuel injected, it's direct injected. You know, 40 years, engines and drivetrains have come quite a long way. It's not just the engine, it's all the electronics and the creature comfort stuff that you're going to get in a new car. We want it in this car too.
And next, you don't want to break the bank.
Correct.
We'll set a realistic budget for that.
Realistic budget. So that's part of the list. Realistic budget that you can build this thing in your garage with, that at the end of the day, it's pretty easy to wrap up money when you're trying to build one of these cars. But in every way, it's cheaper than spending $60,000 to $100,000 on an electric car, and then 7 years from now, spending another $20 grand to get the batteries redone. That's pretty expensive. I'm pretty sure we can compete economically building one of these cars.
And the last item on your list, make memories. What's that about?
Absolutely. You know, somewhere right now, There are people that are watching this show. You're capable of doing this. You and I don't have some magic ability. It's just we've experienced this by failing and accomplishing, failing and accomplishing. That's what it's all about. It's like working with your hands. So I'm going to get that guy off the bench. And you know what? Usually he's doing it with someone else, friends, family, children, spouses, whatever. That's about building that relationship.
Well, we know we've piqued your interest, so come on back to Motorhead Garage presented by NHOU Protective Coatings. We'll show you how you can make a vehicle like this.
Motorhead Garage, presented by NHOU Protective Coatings, is brought to you by RockAuto.com. All the parts your car will ever need. BrothersTrucks.com, your #1 source for 1947 to 87 Chevy and GMC truck restoration. Magic Creeper, the most versatile creeper ever. Phoenix Protective Coatings, we didn't invent bed liners, we just perfected them. And by Oil Undercoating, the official oil-based rust prevention system.
Welcome back to Motorhead Garage presented by NHOU Protective Coatings. Still hanging out with Jan from Innovation Performance Technologies. And we've been talking about the electric vehicles that are coming along and this recycled or upcycled vehicle that you've made here. How does this compare green-wise to an electric vehicle?
Our goal is not to say that this car could be greener than anything else going on in the planet. We're just saying that this car already existed. In other words, there's no carbon footprint to create this car, or about 80% of the parts that are in this car, it already existed. So all we're saying is we got a big head start when you compare it to an electric car. And we're not saying that it replaces the electric car. There's a place for the electric car in populated areas. We believe that someday there'll be probably more efficient fossil fuel vehicles out in the rest of the country. But what this is a small group of hot rodders like us, like the people watching you right now, that could build one of these cars for themselves with far less carbon footprint than you think.
And now you've taken some racing technology and rolled it into this vehicle, because if you can prove it on the racetrack, of course it's going to be good enough for your car on the street.
It's even bigger than that. You know, if you're racing stuff, you're proving sustainability and durability and efficiency. You know, the bottom line is I don't want to be stuck on the side of the road no matter how cool my car looks. So you're right, we're going to take proven stuff on the racetrack. Our company, Innovation Performance Technologies, we actually build race cars of every product we make. For that reason, we go test the stuff. And we decided to build this car to see if we could make a greener type of car that the average person could build.
So what was the process like to build this shocker? It's a bit of a Frankenstein.
Yeah, that's the right word, Frankenstein.
And it's green, so that makes it perfect.
Yeah, well, we called it a shocker for the obvious reason that it's shocking that it uses far less carbon footprint over a 20-year life cycle than an electric car or most other cars, really, because once again, it already exists. But when you're gonna build one of these cars, I think you have to build a car that you like. And then the first thing that we do, believe it or not, it's going to sound crazy, is figure out what the drivetrain is going to be from the donor car. But the next thing we do is figure out the wheels. These are forged-lined wheels, and we actually measure how that wheel fits in the car, because every component after that kind of goes along with it. And the next thing we did is we got a race-proven suspension, which we have from our other car that's run 40 years of racing and won a lot of races. We put it on this car. And next is the brakes. This probably has the best brakes in the industry. Pro Systems, it's hard to beat them. They're in Trans Am, they're in NASCAR, they're in IMSA, they won at Le Mans. So you could buy those components and put them on this car. The most important thing is that you could build this car in your garage yourself. You get a toolbox from Dragonfire, you throw some tools in there, and not to fabricate, to integrate. Go online and look at Google. Can I get these parts for this car? We are getting so much interest, we're probably gonna offer parts for this car now.
And this car is a 1989 Mustang.
89 Mustang, but it's got a 2019 donated drivetrain from a Mustang. It got really interesting putting that interior in this car. Some guys in my shop that will show you who they are later, they're just amazing guys, and they made this interior and this car work.
And the interior is beautiful, and that means also you have your backup camera, all the modern conveniences you'd have in a brand new car.
That's a big deal nowadays. You know, we forget how pampered we are with some of the new cars, the sensing devices, the backup camera, Bluetooth, all that stuff.
Air conditioning.
Air conditioning, you can set the temperature. This car has dual air conditioning. This has all the original convenience package items that you could get in a 2022 Mustang. They're in this car as a 1989.
This is a high performance, this is kind of an extreme version of a vehicle someone might make. What's your message to folks who maybe want more of a daily driver, something they can do themselves and something they can drive every day?
You know, I'm going to tell you, you're going to be shocked, but honestly, this car is a daily driver.
No kidding.
Yeah, it really is. It's a daily driver. Gets over 36 miles to the gallon. By the way, this car will go 1,000 miles on 1 tank of gas. That's a big comparison to the electric car.
How do you go 1,000 miles on a tank of gas?
You either make the car lighter, make a small engine, or put more gas in it. We chose put more gas in it. And there's an extra fuel tank in the car. That's how we did it.
This is a daily driver, but it comes from a racing heritage. You guys built the race car over there the same way. How is racing in danger these days?
Well, I think that it's got a black eye because, you know, people think that racing is basically altering a car to create more carbon than a daily car. And the whole racing industry we've known of like burning extra fuel and making lots of carbon. And the truth is, we're probably the tip of the sword trying to fix that problem. Because if you're in a race car, it's all about efficiency and how much fuel economy you could get and how well protected you are in the car. And it's about doing just the opposite of what the general image is. So there's something called the RPM Act, and that's actually an act right now that Congress passed, and they're trying to make it a law. That law would say that leave race cars alone. They don't fit into the category of the EPA and some other agencies that would look at them like a daily driver. We all know that if they really can crush racing, the next step is to crush our ability to work on a car in our own yard. And that's our real concern. So look up the RPM Act. It's a big deal.
You guys are going to be at PRI here in 2022. What booth can folks find you in?
We're actually going to be in the Green Hall, and we'll be at booth 1043 with Pro Systems.
Innovation Performance Technologies can show you how to build a car like this for yourself. They can also build one for you. These guys are master builders. And if you want to find out more about the RPM Act, you can find it at innovationperformance.tech. And we're going to have more from these guys next week because we're going to challenge an electric vehicle to a race down at Daytona. We'll be right back with more Motorhead Garage presented by NHOU Protective Coatings. Keep it right here.
Dragonfire Tools, quality affordable storage. Proud sponsor of our DragonfireTools.com studio. Time now for the lowdown with Magic Creeper.
I've got to tell you about one of my favorite moments from shooting this season of Motorhead Garage presented by NHOU Protective Coatings. We went to the Smoky Mountain Jeep invasion, and that's where we ran into Dennis Parnaby. He's an avid fan of the show, and he was there showing everyone the amazing job he did restoring his 1958 Jeep FC70. The original literature says the Super Hurricane engine makes 165 horsepower, but Dennis told us it actually only makes 107, but lots and lots of torque. That 225 cubic inch engine sits amidship, and that means it's hard to work on, and that is why Dennis got himself a Magic Creeper.
Because I've watched it on TV and how easy it is to use, and if I'm out when it breaks down, I can slide underneath it.
How does the Magic Creeper compare to your expectations when you saw it on TV?
Exactly the way it was advertised. Never had a minute's trouble.
A lot of folks like to look under your Jeep. Do you get to show off the Magic Creeper then?
I haven't, but as of now I will, because I wish I'd have brought it today, because everybody wants to get on their hands and knees to look underneath it to see the Jeep.
You've used regular mechanics creepers before. How does a Magic Creeper compare to one of those?
It doesn't compare. It does not compare. The wheels get caught on the little tiny stones underneath it, and even in the garage, it gets caught underneath the wheels, and it's hard to get it to move. But the Magic Creeper, it just works unbelievably nice. I can scoot right underneath it.
What are some of the things you've been able to do with a Magic Creeper that you didn't think you'd be able to do?
Use it for a knee rest is one thing, because you're all the time underneath this thing, fiddling with something. Rebuilding it, it's handy, light. You can throw it out and scoot right underneath it and you get the work done.
And it weighs only 3 pounds, so you can take it with you. You can't do that with a traditional creeper at all. Find the original Magic Creeper at magiccreeper.com. That's what Dennis did.
Yes, sir.
Comcast is a huge corporation with 34 million subscribers, and they've picked NHOU Protective Coatings, Joe, to keep their vehicles rust-free Why did they go with NHOU?
I was kind of humbled by that. Well, obviously, they did their homework and they felt this was the product that was going to give them the protection that they needed. And that is something that we do offer fleet service. Now, Comcast brings them into our dealers. They don't have their own maintenance department, but we will work with maintenance departments that have fleets. We'll train them. We'll actually make equipment specific for their vehicles or their application. We'll sell them products that, you know, we don't sell necessarily to the consumer, and give them a whole maintenance program along with discounted pricing.
How does NHOU protect a vehicle for folks that don't know?
The city here of Concord, they have sand trucks, and those sand trucks sit around for probably 2 months in the spring, which is the worst time because you get condensation, higher temperatures, and lower temperatures at night, and it really activates things. We've got them into a program now where they use our salt eliminator, and they basically decontaminate those trucks, wash them down, and then oil them. And they're keeping the statistics on that, but it's got to add 5 or 10 years of life to those vehicles. And if you don't have the statistics on what it does, I'll tell you what'll happen if you don't do anything.
If you have one vehicle or an entire fleet of vehicles, NHOU Protective Coatings can keep your vehicles on the road. NHOiLundercoating.com is a place to check it out. We're just getting warmed up here on Motorhead Garage, presented by NHOU Protective Coatings, so why don't you come on back?
Motorhead Garage, presented by NHOU Protective Coatings, is brought to you by Magic Creeper, the most versatile creeper ever. Image Wash Products, everyone's favorite truck wash soaps. Tribotex, make your engine last longer. Blue Ridge Overland Gear, reclaim your journey. And by Dragonfire Tools, industrial workbenches with integrated storage.
On previous episodes of Motorhead Garage, we've seen Gabe Goldberg and how he became a customer here at NHOU Protective Coatings. Well, he liked the company so much, he decided to become a part of it.
I had no idea that it would take just an hour to do my vehicle, so I really kind of settled in. And while I was sitting down, a guy walked through the room, and I said, this place is really amazing. I could tell he worked here. He had the NHOU shirt on. And he said, what do you do? And I thought he was going to hire me to spray cars. And I said, well, I'm in marketing. And he said, well, what kind of marketing? He says, I'm Joe. I'm the owner of this place. Well, he's Joe. He's the founder of it. He's the guy who formulates everything. He's the guy. And we talked for about 3 hours in his office that day, and he blew my mind. I work for much larger companies doing kind of big projects and branding and kind of household brand name stuff. And I don't have any smaller local clients like this, but once I walked out of talking with Joe for 3 hours, I thought, this is it. I am gonna work with this guy. And I called my design partner, Kay, in New York, and I said, you're gonna think this is crazy, but this guy is completely onto something, and we're gonna work with him. So it's been about 3 years now. I do a lot of the marketing around here, a lot of the label design with my partner, Kay, and we're really just elevating the brand every opportunity we get so that the rest of the brand has that same feeling that you get when you walk into this waiting room, that this is a really high-end premium product. And one thing I've learned from working with Joe is that the product is only as good as the application. So you really, really do care who's doing that application, which I think is why so many people, like my friend Wayne, will drive that 6 hours, 8 hours. There's people who come up here, they've driven 10 hours through the night, they stay in a hotel just to get it done here at NHOU because they know it's being done right.
You can find out more about NHOU Protective Coatings and why Gabe liked it so much that he became part of the company. Go to NHOiLundercoating.com. When you go to DragonfireTools.com, you're going to find all kinds of different workbench models to suit your needs and your space. Lou, here's one of your 7-foot models. Walk us through this one.
So this is our 7-foot Midnight Pro Series 12-drawer workbench. And as you can see, we have an open door cabinet on either end with a fully adjustable shelf that you can make whatever height you want.
And how much weight is that shelf going to hold?
It'll hold up to 150 pounds on that shelf. As far as construction goes, we also have a 14-gauge 304 stainless steel top on here, 16-gauge galvanized steel drawer bodies, 14-gauge powder-coated drawer fronts, and a fully 14-gauge tubular steel welded frame.
How important was quality when you set out to design your workbenches?
Well, we knew that not only homeowners, but professionals were going to be using these. So being able to use these on a day in and day out basis, that's how they were designed with that in mind.
What are some of the things the pros love about Dragonfire Tools workbenches?
Well, for one, the affordability. Number two, as you mentioned, the quality. This is something that's going to stand the test of time, whether you're a professional in a shop or a dealership or an auto body shop, or whether you're a homeowner.
And a feature that the pros like, I know as well, is the locking features. And folks at home too, you've got your tools out in your garage. Someone can get in there and take them. So talk about the locks and how tough they are.
The locks on this workbench, you can lock each individual bay. So a lot of toolboxes out there, you have one lock, which means the entire thing's locked. So a lot of professionals, they want to be able to keep their specialty tools locked up while still having access to their regular daily tools. And so we've allowed for that by having individual locks for each bay and each cabinet.
I talked about variety of workbenches you have on the website. What if I can't decide?
All you need to do is give us a call and we'll be able to work with you based upon the application that you're going to be using the workbench in. Whether you're a diesel mechanic or an auto body detailer, we're going to be able to fit based upon the type of tooling that you're going to be putting in the workbench.
Well, if you're a hobbyist or you're a pro, DragonfireTools.com has the workbench that's going to suit your needs. Find them at DragonfireTools.com, and there is a discount code for Motorhead Garage viewers. Type in Motorhead to get free shipping and a discount. Motorhead Garage is presented by NHOU Protective Coatings, and we do this every week, so we hope you join us once again next week. In the meantime, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram to see what's going on here at our studio. Until next time, we will see you. Have a great week.